The jury rendered its verdict in the guilt phase on November 12, 2004. The penalty phase began on November 30th, 2004. That same day, however, the trial court received information that one juror, Juror 8, had discussed the case with his bartender, Gino Gonzalez. In light of this information, the trial court held a hearing. The trial court heard testimony from Paula Canny, who had learned about and reported Juror 8's misconduct. Canny was an attorney who had worked for the District Attorney's Office in Ventura and was a deputy DA, but currently worked as part of the private defender program. Canny knew Gino Gonzalez for a long time because they had been neighbours, and she even knew his wife and child. On November 13th, 2004, the Saturday after the guilt verdict, Canny was in Redwood City for a media appearance about the case. That afternoon, she was outside making a telephone call when she saw Gonzalez drive up in his green Jeep. After her call, she went over to Gonzalez's Jeep to say hello. Gonzalez told Canny that he and his wife had fun watching her on television. Gonzalez then told Canny that Juror 8 was a friend of mine. Gonzalez said that he and Juror 8 were having a beer at 8 p.m. to celebrate at a dive bar, which was down the street from her house. Gonzalez said that Juror 8 told him he hated Juror number 5 and that he was a geek. Juror 8 also told Gonzalez that he learned a lot by doing this trial, and he didn't take a lot of notes like Juror 5 just took notes, and he learned to really get his mind going again by watching the witnesses, and every day at the end he would go home and write all the things he thought were important in his notebook. According to Gonzalez, Juror 8 said they are so happy that they got Scott, and they are going to get Scott in the next phase, or something like that. Gonzalez warned Canny that all this is attorney-client privilege. Canny, a former district attorney, was upset by what Gonzalez had told her. She told Gonzalez she had to go, and then told her girlfriend about what Gonzalez had told her. The next day, Canny spoke with Gonzalez and confronted him about what he had told her the previous day. Gonzalez replied, Paula, he's a great guy, and number 8 has integrity." Gonzalez then told her that Juror 8 worked the midnight shift as a parking attendant at the Union Street parking garage. Gonzalez said that when Juror 8 got off work, he would come down for a beer or two at the restaurant bar and have breakfast and then go to court. He said that Juror 8 would discuss who was there in the courtroom and was particularly impressed when Kimberly Newsom was there. He also said that it was being bandied about the bar that a guilty vote was worth at least $100,000, and Juror 8 was present at the time. Upon learning about Juror 8's misconduct, Canny contacted a friend, former police officer John Manus. She then spoke to Bill Cody, an investigator for the San Mateo County District Attorney's Office and Defense Counsel. Cody confirmed that he received a call from Canny. Canny told him what she had heard from Gonzalez. Cody interviewed Gonzalez, confronting him with Canny's allegations, and Gonzalez replied, "That's ridiculous and not true in any sense." But Gonzalez did admit he met Juror 8, whom he knew as John, at the Sharp Park Golf Course restaurant. Juror 8 told Gonzalez that he was called for jury duty on a high-profile case. Gonzalez admitted that Juror 8 later told Gonzalez he was picked for the jury. Gonzalez denied that Juror 8 ever told him that he was picked as a juror on Mr. Peterson's case. Gonzalez said Juror 8 was a regular at the restaurant but never heard him discuss the case. Gonzalez called Canny again after he was visited by Cody. Canny testified that Gonzalez was kind of upset. Canny told Gonzalez, "Gino, I told you I was going to tell." Gonzalez again called Canny after defense counsel had him served with a subpoena. It was 7:15 a.m. on Thanksgiving. She told him, "Gino, just tell the truth." Gonzalez asked Canny several times, why don't they just go get Juror 8's notebook and see? The trial court told Canny, he, meaning Gonzalez, denies this conversation with you. Canny replied, "Look, I don't know this, and I feel terrible that I talked to him, but I'm not in the business of making stuff up." When defense counsel told Kenny that Gonzalez had warned counsel's investigator that maybe I'll just say I exaggerated, or maybe I said I'll just say I don't remember, something to that effect, Kenny replied, "That's just crazy." Kenny said that she told Gonzalez to hire a lawyer, and Gonzalez did hire a lawyer. She thought it was crazy for Gonzalez to say he didn't have a conversation with me. Counsel confirmed for the court that Kenny's girlfriend, Woody, said she saw the conversation take place, but could not hear what was said. At this point, the court had two different hearsay versions of what had happened. Kenny's version about what Gonzalez said, and Cody's version of what Gonzalez said. Ultimately, of course, the question of what Gonzalez said could not be resolved until Gonzalez himself was questioned. Sure enough, after Kenny's testimony, the trial court called Gonzalez to the stand. By this time, however, Gonzalez had hired a lawyer, Ian Loveseth. When Gonzalez was called to testify, Loveseth intervened, saying, "We are not sure we want to do it." The court asked Loveseth if Gonzalez was prepared to testify about his conversations with Kenny and Juror 8. Loveseth declined, saying, "At this point our position would be, since our big mouth got us into this situation, that unless we are immunized, we're not going to testify." Loveseth later told the court that Gonzalez would only answer whether he had a conversation with Juror 8 about the case. According to Loveseth, Gonzalez would only say he asked Juror number 8 about what was going on, and Juror 8 replied, I believe, a potential juror in a high-profile case, to which Gonzalez said, "Maybe after this is all over we can talk." Because Gonzalez was not willing to subject himself to any further questioning, the court sent Loveseth and Gonzalez to the presiding judge to see whether or not they are going to give him immunity. The court asked Cody to call someone at the San Mateo County District Attorney's Office to be present with Loveseth and Gonzalez. The trial court questioned Juror 8. Juror 8 denied the allegation that when he got off work he went to a bar and had a couple of beers and breakfast and then came to court to serve as a juror. When asked about speaking to Gonzalez, Juror 8 admitted that he had been to the bar, but said that he never had conversations about the case. He also denied telling anyone that jurors kept secret notebooks. Outside the presence of Juror 8, defense counsel noted that Juror 8 looked down and would not look the trial court in the eye when questioned about drinking before coming to court. Defense counsel moved for a mistrial. Counsel stated Juror 8 admits going to the bar, and we have got Miss Kenny at great pains. I think the court would agree with me that she did not seem to relish being here today and has made some statements which, if true, are grounds for mistrial. The court denied the mistrial motion, finding that one of the statements Miss Kenny had attributed, talking to this guy, Mr. Gonzalez, is that the jury had already decided to impose the death penalty, but the statement was completely false based on what you have heard from these people. Moreover, according to the court, Juror 8 denies that he's ever kept secret notebooks or any members of the jury keeping secret notebooks. Thus, the trial court resolved the issue and determined what Juror 8 said to Gonzalez without ever hearing from Gonzalez himself. Of course, if Gonzalez testified that Juror 8 had indeed committed the misconduct, he, Gonzalez, described to Kenny, and the trial court believed Gonzalez, a finding of misconduct was certain and Juror 8 would have been discharged. On the other hand, if Gonzalez testified that Juror 8 had not committed any misconduct and the trial court believed Gonzalez, no finding of misconduct would have been proper. But, as noted earlier, the court permitted Gonzalez to refuse to testify about the incident. The court never heard from Gonzalez and, as a consequence, never resolved the credibility issue at the heart of this issue, which version given by Gonzalez was accurate. And further, the trial court erred in failing to conduct an adequate evidentiary hearing into the allegation that Juror 8 had discussed the case with Gonzalez, because it is impossible on this record to determine whether or not Juror 8 committed serious misconduct or whether any misconduct was harmless. Remand for an adequate hearing is required. Of course, there was good reason to believe that Gonzalez was not telling the truth when he denied having a conversation with Kenny. Gonzalez told Canny that he thought what he was telling her was confidential under the attorney-client privilege. When Canny told Gonzalez she would have to report the misconduct, Gonzalez got upset and insisted that Juror 8 was a great guy and had integrity. After Gonzalez was questioned by Cody, Gonzalez called Canny, kind of upset, and after receiving defense counsel's subpoena, told Canny that he thought that his allegations should instead be proven by getting Juror 8's secret notebook. Gonzalez told defense counsel's investigator that maybe I'll just say I exaggerated, or I'll just say I don't remember. Thus, Gonzalez gave Canny every indication that he was going to now deny the conversation, which of course is exactly what he ended up doing to both Cody and Loveseth. Under all these circumstances, the trial court had reasonable cause to suspect that Gonzalez might not be telling the truth in denying the conversation. As noted previously, Gonzalez refused to testify about the conversations he had with Juror 8. While that refusal itself should perhaps have caused the trial court to question whether the version Gonzalez gave to Cody was true, the fact of the matter is that without hearing from Gonzalez himself, the trial court had no way to reliably determine whether Gonzalez was telling the truth, 1, when he spoke to Canny, or 2, when he spoke to Cody. Because this determination was essential in determining whether misconduct occurred, the trial court's failure to hold an adequate hearing to resolve the misconduct claim requires remand.